Reputation for rough and tough behaviour, and sometimes the police become involved. Each group has its own bands and pubs, but occasionally there's conflict.
Well, they don't like each other a lot, I don't think. They squabble, I would say. They have their own territory and they tend to stick to it, I guess, and when there is a crossover you might get some trouble, but they tend to keep apart from each other pretty well.
Now you've got all these different people living in the city, living around the city, and they're all sort of fighting against each other.
I don't intend to frighten anybody. I intend to look the way I want, even if I had long hair. And people said, oh, if it was in the 60s and I had long hair, I'd have been frightening people then because I was a hippie. Now I could have long hair and I'd still be frightening people. I mean, people I'm frightening is not kids my age. I'm frightening people 10 years, 30 years older than me.
It's, you know, not liking the other cult or not liking the other group. You know, it's all that now. You've got so much more opposition now.
I mean, I might front a few my age. I hope so, anyway.
I was involved in a thing with some skinheads, and I got a broken jaw. And it's my fault I was involved in it. But I was involved in it because I'm a mod.
Everybody's always on the defensive. No one ever claims to be an aggressor, and like I guess we're as defensive as anyone. Like the thing that happened with Andy and myself. It's territorial. Like we have a pub, the skinheads will have a pub, the punks have a pub, and of course we're at a pub, and if the skinheads come down there, I mean they know it. They know it's our pub, and it's a defensive thing, protecting, I don't know, your little part of the inner city, whatever. But no one will ever claim to be the aggressor.
You've got to fight with what you believe in. That's right. If you want to be a skinhead and wear these sort of clothes and walk down the street, people are just going to pass you.
The major difference between any of these groups is music. The mods dance to their music and the skins dance to a different beat. Skinhead music is called ska, and they call themselves ska skins.
Ska is a prehistoric form of reggae, and that was sort of the first sort of noises that were coming out of Jamaica in the late 60s after the blacks in Jamaica started listening to American soul music, which was coming over from Florida, the radio. So in a way, I suppose skinheads and the mods have something in common, and they all do come from black music, is always really important to those two groups.
Skinheads last flourished in England 15 years ago. They grew as a reaction against the cosmic ideas of the hippies. Their origins are working class, as their boots and braces declare. But why is skinhead being revived in Australia in the mid-1980s?
It hasn't been revived. It's changed a lot over the years. It went from being sort of short cropped hair to having hair with tails at the back and stuff like that. That's where the Sharpies over here come from. Went to smoothies, suede heads, which were basically just old skinheads gone smooth. The fashion's changed from tight trousers to flares, high-waisters, angel wing collars, all that lot. But it's never really died.
Now, it gets a little confusing at this stage, as there are two types of skinhead. There are the ska skins, and there's the oi skins. And again, the difference is best shown through their music. Oi music has a lot in common with punk.
Hello, Mum.
The confusion arises here because these are mainly oi skins dancing to ska music. The ois generally look tougher. They have tattoos, their hair is shorter, and their politics are more extreme. This was the ska skinheads' night, but the ois came along and they seem to be having more fun than anybody. For both the scars and the ois, skinhead is a way of life.
It was just being a skin, the whole feeling of being a skin and doing what we were doing, going out of pubs, having a few drinks, going to see the band, having a great laugh. Even after that, we'd go to parties, and even if it was a dull night, we'd go home at 12 o'clock. There was something great about that night, being a skin. And when I wasn't a skin before that, I look back now and say, what a bore it was. I used to go to the movies every Saturday night, go play Space Invaders. What a bore.
So the ska skins are just out for a good time. Politics is not an issue. Like the mods, it's the clothes, the music, and the group.
Politics don't come into it at all.
It comes into
yes.
It comes into boys and things like that. You get sort of fascists. But with ska skins, a lot of the skins around here, they're not that much into politics. It's something you forget about. You go out and you just forget about it. The only time I think about it is when I've got to vote.
In England now, there's a new movement called Oi, which have heard the Oi skins in Sydney, which they all follow. Many, I think they follow that just because the music is just what they want. But the skin image is the image that's going to go against the government because people are scared of it. It just looks too rough. If you're showing something by walking down the street looking like a skin for in the first place, I mean, you're showing aggression, and aggression you can show against the government, pushing you away.
The Oi skinhead culture in England is a potent mix of working class and right-wing politics, outrageous music, and ridicule of conservative businessmen and Mrs. Thatcher's government. In Australia, their numbers are small. Their extremism isn't as fierce. But if you meet them face to face, you should take them seriously. Most other groups are scared of the Ois.
So they should be.
Why do you reckon they should be?
I don't know, they'd beat us up, wouldn't they? If we were scared of them, they'd beat us up.
So who do they fight with mainly?
Most people that we do get a problem off is ethnics.
Right.
Yeah.
And who are the ethnics in particular? Which ethnics?
Pleb.
Are they heavy fights?
Not really.
Because the Lebanese look after themselves, I reckon.
Yeah. Especially when they carry knives. Then again, 6 to 1. Yeah.
Well, do you think it's like that they're looking after themselves, or?
No, I don't think it is at all. It's not, that's the religion, isn't it? They're going to court with a knife and with a knife down the leg. That's the religion, so the court just turns around and says, oh yeah, that's all right because they've been brought up that way.
Yeah.
Because the boys wear boots and braces and have a good pop with the hooligans.
Do you like fighting?
Yeah.
Why do you like it?
It's just good. Good for your health. Bad for theirs. Good so you
Relieves the tension.
Well, the skinheads have actually been aligned to sort of neo-fascist groups and things like that. And I mean, they're very heavy. They're very mean-looking. Everybody knows that. But I mean, their politics definitely veer very far right. I mean, they believe in the mother country. They're very racist, just generally very far right, I would say.
With all this love of the mother country in English accents, I wondered how many are Australian-born. The answer is probably about half.
A lot of skins you will find are English, or maybe you've got English parentage. I mean, nowadays, maybe some of these skins, their dads were skins in England.
Not all skinheads are racists. Some even lean the other way. But it's the racist attitudes that cause outrage. Thank you. And we'll look at that in a moment. Racism presents itself in many ways all over Australia. But the racist attitudes of the skinheads have gained lots of media attention.
Speaks to everybody. I mean,
where I live in Marrickville, it's an ethnic community. When I was at school, there was 131 form with 15 Australians and about 4 half-breeds.
Maybe we'll just talk about it more openly than what the normal subversive Australian will. We'll come out and say, you know, get away with whatever.
I've been in school with them, and I've heard them talk about different nationalities coming out, and they've hated them. And we always seem to mainly because of the way we dress. And if we say it out loud, then we get in trouble just because of the way we dress. But if any person with hair down past their ears and has a pair of Sanchez, a jeans and a T-shirt on, they say it, nothing's thought of that.
Most skinheads do agree on one thing: the halting of Asian immigration into Australia. And the Ois put it down to the need for jobs.
It's fair enough if one wants to come here and he's going to do something that'll help us, you know. Like if we're short of if we're short of doctors or something, if we haven't got them, well, fair enough. But when they come over here and they haven't even got a job, you know, and we haven't either, why should they get interest-free loans and that, you know? Why burden us if they've got something they can do? Why bring unemployment over here?
Because they come over in, like, how many of them have got jobs and we ain't? And they reckon they're all starving, all that. Look at all the brand new cars that they drive around in there, around the city and that.
I mean,
Might have worked hard for them or something like that.
Yeah, they walk off the plane and get $2,000.
They walk over, the government goes and gives them all this money and so
They're denouncing the government's assistance to refugees.
and they just get off the plane and get a job.
They go in factories and they work for twice as less as anybody else and nobody knows about it.
The skins in England were very strongly associated with the National Front. What happened there, I guess what's happened here to a certain extent, is they don't like to be used by these movements, but they like to identify with them. At the same time, they don't want to feel as if these movements are using them to be strong-arm boys or to be a good image to have up front or something. So they're in a bit of a bind themselves. I mean, they identify with it, but they don't like to get pushed around either.
100,000 in a rally in Spain. They still join NATO all the same. And yet again,
The Ois are one extreme of the inner city culture. The punks are another. It's the uncertainty of the times, the threat of war and unemployment that affects both groups.
Well, I think these groups are just a lot more desperate than they were ever previously, because the world is in a more desperate situation. These kids are unemployed, whereas in the 60s it wasn't so bad, say. There's the nuclear threat. Any of the other woes of the world that you want to add up, these kids are feeling it more and more and more, so they're pushing harder themselves. They're pushing further into their own pocket, I suppose, to find some security.
Good afternoon, A Human Animal.
Artist Mike Mullins has a particular view of the way our society is evolving.
Yep.
His view led him to spend 3 weeks in a cage at the zoo as an exhibit called The Human Animal.
what do you eat?
Regular food.
Do you eat steaks or do you get
Just
raw?
what I regularly eat. I've actually eaten very healthy food since I've been in here. Feel terrific for it.
Yeah,
Plus I've been off the grog.
How do you get on with the other animals?
Pretty well, actually.
As Mike leads us to think of our relationship with nature, he points to the nuclear cloud on the horizon, suggesting that it's an influence on the behaviour of young people today.
I was born in 51. I'm born in the shadow of the nuclear bomb. That changes everything. Under that shadow, humanity has created something that can destroy the planet. And that makes us different, we who are born since then. And in this, there is this sense of abandonment. This sort of punk movement, and the word anarchy and the word sort of hate is real strong. I think there's a huge disillusionment. You know, we're educated to be someone, yet most of us will be no ones.
We want to be noticed, like we're just not going to be another statistic or just a...
Yeah, just another little number.
Another number in another little house in another little country, and, you know.
The inner city life is not without its drama. For many of these kids, their appearance limits work opportunities and attracts the attention of police.
Well, like, the police are just people, you know. You get your good police and your bad police. And, like, you get these guys who think, you know, punks are just sort of these delirious buggers who go around kicking in shop windows or whatever. And, you know, they just, every time they see punk, they pick him up, beat him up, rip his earrings out, you know, push him around, hassle him, whatever. But then you get these guys who are really good, you know, who just sort of treat you like a person the way they should do. But there's often friction, you know, especially if you're a weirdo sort of person. Often they just push you around as a sort of warning just in case you're going to step out of line, you know, sort of preventative measures.
And what's the police view? Mr. Killen is the police chief superintendent of the metropolitan area.
I don't see them as a threat to society any more than any other group of people would be a threat to society. There are those amongst them capable of committing most serious crime, and indeed some of them have. And I call to mind a murder that was committed in the city, inner city area in 1982, where a young fellow and his a young girlfriend in fact killed an elderly gentleman who was on his way to work early one morning. And the net proceeds of that effort was that they took his work lunch from him. Generally, in my assessment and of the way I see things from my position, they don't represent a great problem from a policing point of view at all.
Like, we've had a lot of bad experience with the police. Like, we've even had a friend die from the police. Like, because the way he looked, he was picked up and was killed by the police. I don't know if you can put that on your TV or not, but it's a fact that he was bashed by the police and died. because of what he was and the way he looked.
David McIntosh was 20 when he died.